So back in the late noughties, about 2009, I think it was, the government hired a man called Professor David Nutt to be their drugs czar. He was appointed to give a detailed account and assessment of all the illegal drugs and how they damage your physical health, the societal damage, the cost to society, etc. Anyway, what David Nutt found and what he told the government, they didn't want to hear, because he told them that cannabis should be declassified, how it was pretty much harmless, not harmless, but very, very minimal damage to physical health, to society, and the rare cases of it causing psychosis and schizophrenia, in his opinion, were down to the fact that it was unregulated and that most of the cannabis being consumed and purchased was very high THC content. You know, talking over 20% THC, very low CBD, cannabidiol, and that was skewing the effects, obviously. Another case of human beings thinking they're smarter than nature and tampering with things that work fine. He also said that ecstasy was the damage and the life-threatening issues with ecstasy was not the drug itself, it was people's behaviour whilst on it. So, increasing in body temperature, dancing all night in a club, not drinking enough water, or in a lot of the tragic cases was the opposite, drinking too much water. He also went on to say that alcohol is by far the most damaging drug, and that it is 3 times more damaging than cocaine and tobacco. Now, obviously, the government didn't like what he said, so they sacked him. Which just goes to show exactly what the government think of us. It's not about the truth, is it? It's just about how they can manipulate, lie, and, control us. Just a fine example. So around that time, people were starting to realise that cannabis was not the evil that people portrayed it as. So they had to put a different kind of spin onto it, didn't they, to try and smear it. So then the phrase cannabis is a gateway drug, that started coming out, didn't it? Cannabis is the gateway drug to harder drugs, which sounds plausible to someone who does no knowledge or is not part of that life, has never been around drug use or whatever, but anyone who knows anything knows that's complete bullshit. If that was the case, why is there such a small amount of cannabis users go on to use hard drugs? I mean, there's millions and millions of cannabis users, and there's only a very small amount of hard drug users. And in my opinion, it's not the drug, it's the environment. Hard drug use comes from low income, low employment areas on the whole. More wealthy places with higher employment, there's still lots of cannabis users, but not so many hard drug users, I would say. If anything's a gateway drug to hard drug use, it's alcohol, especially for cocaine. I mean, alcohol is the entrance to the nightlife, the social world, night times, the party drugs, cocaine, ecstasy, etc. It's not cannabis. Anyway, that was their way of smearing it. Now, if you were to apply that same logic to supplements, you could quite easily say that creatine is the gateway drug to steroid abuse. So how many people who take steroids started off using creatine? Now, obviously, it's bullshit. There is no link, and there is no direct link between people using creatine and steroid abuse. But I'm just highlighting the point that people can prove things that don't exist. People could use that logic to say that creatine does lead to steroid abuse, because, like I said, most people who get onto steroids, they start with creatine, don't they? See an effect of the creatine, they might gain a little bit of strength, gain a few pounds, and then that starts them thinking, well, I want to move on to something a bit, I'm enjoying the progress of this, let's move on to something different. Maybe then they'll try some SARMs, maybe, or, they might do a few Winstrol or a couple of Anavor, stuff like that. And then, before you know it, they're smashing a gram of Tren a week. This is it's quite logical to say that creatine is the gateway drug to steroid abuse. If you're going to say cannabis is the gateway to hard drugs, then I think it's perfectly plausible to say that creatine is the gateway to steroid abuse. It's just something I was thinking about today when I was reading about this Professor David Nutt, and it's just another highlight of how we can be bullshitted to and spun lies, and narratives can be created around things that just don't exist, but people they lap it up, don't they? and they believe too much of what they're told. But I think there's a very similar, it's a similar situation between the two. It's just something that I've been thinking about today. So I like to waffle shit on these videos. So yeah, just an interesting concept. So I'm feeling a bit better today. Back still a bit sore, but I managed to push it to a 180 kilo deadlift, which wasn't bad. Then I moved on to squatting. Squatting was not the best. Managed to double at 160, triple at 150. And then I left it there. I was going to do another set with 140, but I left it. Overhead press felt good today. I'm happy when I can get a good set of 5 with 70 kilos. Dropped it to 60 for a set of 8. So I'm still decent, got decent strength on the overhead press. Then I moved on to the bag. Now this week's not gone as I planned, because I did plan this to be my last conditioning week. And then I did the pig squat routine for the deadlift on Monday, which basically wrote off yesterday and Wednesday. I couldn't do shit, basically. And a poor night's sleep as well, so obviously it taxed me to hell. So I've not done any conditioning. Although, saying that, the pig squat routine for the deadlift was a conditioning session in itself. But I've managed to get the 6-2s in on the bag today. My plan, what I wanted to do was finish with 15 3-minute rounds. So I'm aiming for that either Saturday or Sunday. Don't know if I've got it in me, to be honest. The 6-2s is quite hard. I would have to pace myself. And start slow and build into it. And I'd probably have to have a 4 minutes rest in between. But 15 threes is a good standard for fitness, I think, on the bag. Obviously, it's just a pure cardio challenge. I'm not, like I say, I've never been a boxer or anything like that. So it's just a pure cardio challenge. But I know if I can get that 15 threes, I'm in a good place fitness-wise. So I finished off the session with some core work. I've been keeping on top of the core work recently. The 2 sets of 15 on the electors, and I finished with an AMRAP, and I managed to get 30 on my last set, which is most I've ever done of these. Abs were on fire at the end. So a good session today. We've got 3 more sessions to go this week. One of them is going to be a pretty quiet day, aiming for a big bag session. I'm going to force myself to do another burpee session, even though I don't really want to. And that'll be it for this week then, probably.